Welcome back, podcast community. My name is Cam King. This is episode number 34 of Three Questions Podcast. Today, I have a guest with me, Kate McKay from Newport, Rhode Island. Kate has 15 years of experience, everything from analytics to being a CMO for a tech startup. She is here to talk about not only online dating, but also digital marketing skills and the correlation between those two. And she has a number of side projects. Kate, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's always wonderful to be in Newport amongst all the beautiful boats. So thanks for having me. I'm super jazzed to be here.
Yeah, no worries. So you've listened to a few of the podcasts. You know how this works, right? We pick three questions we've already discussed and agreed upon. You're going to have 5 minutes each to answer all of those. A lot of the people listening to this, it goes everyone from, I've seen teenagers in Australia listening to this somehow. And then I've seen also like 15, 60-year-olds. And then a lot of people in between, probably entrepreneurs, probably people working in marketing and advertising, since that's what most of my consulting work is geared towards. But we also talk about masculinity and a lot of different topics. So nothing is really off limits. I am wanting to have more guests on here so we can always have you back to talk more about more specific marketing stuff. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your side projects and your current work, and maybe just talk about your career in marketing for a minute?
Yeah, sure. So as you said before, 15 years of marketing, and that's ranged from digital analytics for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And my most recent opportunity or job was at a small startup here in Newport, Rhode Island, in the marine boating world, where I was soup to nuts, everything under the sun, marketing, communications, PR, which was super rewarding. And we were acquired by a Fortune 500 company, which was the end goal. So just a really fantastic work experience, and can't say enough about that. Along the way, so I got married 7 months ago. I actually met my husband in real life during the height of COVID, which happens to who? Oh, nobody. But throughout my adult life, I've had numerous relationships, and a lot of them coming from online dating. And so I thought, which is having listened to your podcast and consuming all the great content on your site, that it might be kind of fun for your listeners to listen to a little bit about what online dating is through the lens of a female digital marketer. And so again, coming from the perspective of having some I think successes, I'd say overall, in online dating. I've had over 4 long-term relationships. I'm going to say success being there over 1 year each, and a lot of friends that came out of it as well. So I think it's all part of a journey. And I just feel like I love digital marketing. And if I could talk to about both of them at the same time, then it's a fun topic.
Honestly, I love it. And I think the correlation between marketing and dating is a parallel that more people need to make and realize, because they do go hand in hand, right? You're always flirting, or just perception is reality type stuff. So you have some really good questions on here. Before we get started, I just want to give Howie from Appenite and Ad Sciences, an amazing platform, a big shout out. Howie agreed to sponsor the first 50 episodes of the podcast. You can find Howie in the Ad Sciences platform at appenite.com. That is APPANITE.com, or Ads Sciences, that is ADSSciences.com. You can reach out to Howie too, Howie at appenite.com. He is one of the best people. He also made the introduction to Kate and I, but he's one of the best people, and I've seen him grow and scale companies and products and businesses like nobody else, especially in our world, in our neck of the woods in the Boston area. So you can work with him if you're international. If you have a product or service, reach out to Howie. If you need more information, you can always reach out here on the podcast, and I will put you in touch. Other than that, Kate, do you have any questions, or are you ready?
I am ready. I also just say another plug for Howie and his team, 5 stars, my go-to for advertising with Facebook, social, and all social platforms.
Yeah, he's incredible. I know he works with a ton of different companies, CMOs, and he's just like an awesome guy, right? And he's just always meeting and greeting and connecting people. I don't know how he does it. I don't know if he sleeps, but we'll save that for another podcast. I'll get him on at some point. But
Perfect.
all right. So you know how the format works. It's 5 minutes each. I'm going to read the question and start the timer. So here we go, right? Question number 1. How did you apply your digital marketing skills to online dating and your profile?
Great question. So I, again, use the lens of of marketing 101. Know your target audience. So who is it that I wanted to appeal to, or in the context of your listeners, who is it that you want to attract in? Now, we all have different flavors, and I do believe that variety is the spice of life. So not everyone's going to want the same thing, but you just want to always put your eye on your target market and what makes them tick. So do the market research, kind of understand the type of look that they might like, what kind of topics they're interested in, and make sure that you're presenting yourself in a similar fashion. I'd say also leveraging the best practices of social media, because we're all on there and they're photographs. There is a visual first approach here, very similar to an Instagram or Pinterest, so to speak. But you want to make sure that you're presenting yourself in photos that's your best foot forward, that is going to reel somebody in. Obviously, there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of people online dating, which is a great place to meet people who are open to relationships, or maybe it's just a casual situation. But just make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in terms of the visual approach. And I have some strong-minded advice for question number 2 along those lines. Write authentic content is another, I think, key recommendation. In marketing, of course, you need to know, again, your target market, what makes them tick, but you want to do it in a way that's your own voice and that's really authentic and not just watered down, right? You want to differentiate yourself. What makes you unique? I also, again, going back to market research, look at your competition, look at the other platforms, the other profiles out there that are kind of similar to maybe somebody searching for you. I saw a ton of people just say the same things. They like going to restaurants, they love traveling, they like spending time with their friends. Snooze. I don't know. That got boring. I feel like I wanted to just, bring out my certain passions and colorful, playful, silly humor, and I'm going to attract somebody who's going to like me for me and all those quirky behaviors. And I felt like, again, that's why I met people I really stuck with, and then they had similar types of personalities, which worked. So you're not bringing in the wrong type of person that wouldn't be the right fit for even an hour. So that's important. And then, of course, write good stories and use humor. So the humor part, I'd say, from a marketing perspective, there's a place for humor. If you're B2B marketing for like a SaaS platform, maybe humor is not where you'd go. But certainly online dating world, making someone smile is that emotional pull and connection that will, I think, have an impact. The last thing I will say is the number one rule almost is test and learn. So rather than just set your profile and forget about it, if you're not attracting the right kind of people that you're looking to meet, then change things up. Experiment with changing out your profile, your lead profile picture, or all the pictures in your profile. Change up the copy. I mean, don't stay stagnant. Always just test and learn, which is one of my favorite things about digital marketing is you can have a different impact with a different type of content and visuals that you put out there.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you. I think when it comes to online dating, which I abhor, right? Every girl that I have dated, I've met in real life, and my profiles have always been trash. Right. And I'm 6'5". I'm in shape. Right. I think I look pretty average. Right. I think I get some attention, but I don't know how to make a dating profile. It is so hard for guys. It's ridiculously hard. And when you think about it from a digital marketing perspective, it's like, you're putting your product out there. And even if you work in marketing and advertising, it's so hard to know what differentiates your product from other products out there. Guys don't really get access to seeing other guys' dating profiles. But for women, you can tell who's putting in effort. You can tell who's funny. You can tell who's witty. You can tell who has high quality photos. When a guy puts up a bathroom mirror selfie with the urinal in the background, right? Like, we don't know that most other guys don't have that, right? Or a guy holding up a fish picture. Like, how many guys have that? And women hate that. So I don't know. Great stuff. You ready for question number 2?
Yeah, bring it.
Which I think is super cool too. So question number 2, from your experience now in online dating, what advice do you have for guys like me with their profiles? We need your help. What you got?
I think you alluded to my number one, and if I can help every man out there who has an online dating profile and or just one individual, please take down any selfie of you in the bathroom. I mean, we just tear you apart, the girls on the sidelines. And like, I can't tell you like how many funny text threads I've had about, laughing at somebody who has another picture. It's like, how many selfies are on the profile, and half of them are taken with a urinal in the background. It's just a no-no. What is sexy about a urinal? What is sexy about a selfie in a bathroom? So again, this is where I go back to the target market. What would you want to attract? Think about it from the other's perspective. I'd say in general, max one selfie. You want to have a variety of different pictures, some with friends to show your social and cool places you like to travel. Dead fish, again, I can't tell you the number of times my gal pals have, and a lot of them are on online dating, have just made fun of guys with fish. So, I want you to be you. I'm not trying to curate something that's a false identity, but I'm just trying to give some helpful tips here. And the other thing I would just say is, get a female that you trust who has a good eye and a gal pal of your own, and just have them take some recent pictures, have them, help you. Don't do it alone. It doesn't have to be something you suffer through, but like getting the opposite, if you're looking to attract the opposite sex, of course, if you have somebody you trust, do it together or have them write it for you. And then you can, be the editor of it. My 2 cents.
Yeah, it's so hard. There's no guys learn primarily, and I work with a lot of men. I know guys, and guys learn the best when we make mistakes. But it takes another guy or a very special gal pal or friend or a girlfriend or a breakup or a job loss, whatever sort of lesson, we learn from those and we change and adapt and improve. Majority of men. And I think it's very unique to that. There's a great book on this called The Lucifer Principle, and it's all about how men are kind of disposable in terms of like how nature has evolved. Fascinating concept, but I really think that guys learn the best by making mistakes, and we have to be held accountable to mistakes. Like putting a selfie of you on a dating profile, holding up a fish, right, to majority of women who don't really care about fishing is probably a no-no. And then having these bathroom urinal selfies.
But hey, if you're attracting the right kind of gal in with that, I mean, if it works for you, go for it. I'm just telling you from my own experience and from a lot of the gals over the years that I've been friends with. And yeah, we have to make mistakes in life. That's how we learn and we course correct.
Mm-hmm. And 110%, right? This works in marketing and dating, but like effort is noticed. When guys put in effort to something, or anybody for that matter puts in effort into something, into a product or a service or a business, or your dating profile, or just your online presence or a website, right? Your Etsy shop, you can tell that everything you make, very high quality effort. And I think that increases the value in the stock of anything that you put in. And that's a lesson that people need to sort of be able to draw correlations between. So,
and I'll say that's also, sorry to interrupt one more time, but just I think there's times too, to your point, like you're a good looking person. There are a lot of good looking people in this world who have very good pictures and they have kind of minimal content in there. I've heard a lot of gals who are just quality people get turned off by that. They'll get messaged, but they don't want to they don't trust because it's a very false facade that they're seeing just in the pictures and the content. So put a little effort into your point and make it real, make it authentic, have some fun with it too. It's not so serious. So have some silliness.
Yeah. And especially for guys with their profiles, I can't tell you how many, entrepreneurs or business people or young men, guys in their 20s and their 30s that I've worked with in terms of consulting. And the reason why I started working with them on sort of these masculinity, dating, relationships, sex type things is because I noticed that they're in their personal life, they were kind of unsure about who they were, right? They were reading all the books about entrepreneurship and marketing and advertising, sales and money, but they weren't reading on how to sort of develop and grow as a man. And, the whole toxic masculinity conversation aside, this is why I kept bringing things into the foreground for a lot of these people and saying, hey, if you work on just becoming a better man and you can protect and provide and just sort of give selflessly, that's going to raise everything else in terms of your life, business, relationships, all this stuff. So I tend to work with guys on that first and make sure they're going on the sort of right track. And I love working on that stuff. And it's so much easier for them to succeed in their professional careers when they have that lane down. And it's very obvious, right? I'm sure when you're seeing an abundance of guys' profiles, hey, this guy looks like he knows who he is, looks like he knows where he's going. He has a very clear vision, good job. He's taking care of himself. That stuff is very obvious. And then it makes it easier to sort of have that conversation and sort of filter out the guys that maybe don't. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's well said.
Okay, cool. So question number 3 is my favorite. So question number 3, what have you learned from online dating that you've applied to digital marketing, right? Anything in your toolbox, things that you've done as a CMO, what correlations have brought you directly back to online dating?
Yeah, well, I think it just like you're not for everyone, right? Not every single person that we date is going to fall in love with us. And that's okay. Like, it's totally okay. So in other words, in marketing speak, like, know your target audience. Don't try to appeal to everybody. Pick a niche audience that you really feel like is your strongest target market, and speak their speak, appeal to them. Do the market research, understand their pain points, what the gaps in the market exist, what are their wants, their psychology, their demographics, and really hone in there. Yes, in that process, you're going to turn off some people to your business, your products, your services, and that's okay, because the right target market will hear you, and they'll feel like you're correctly talking to them, which will then become a marketing qualified lead. So in other words, again, in marketing, you're just going to have to say, I don't expect everyone to fall in love with me, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. You hit the nail on the head. As a business, right? As someone who's been a CMO for a tech startup, you've put out products and services, and you knew what your target audience was. Have you had any sort of experiences where it wasn't the right target market, maybe the research wasn't there, or you got negative feedback? For people that take rejection, either in the business world or dating world, what advice would you have in a situation like that?
Yeah, well, I think if we, and maybe this is an indirect way of answering the question, but if we don't appeal to our target market, if we try to do a widespread offering, and so we have, my last job again was in the boating world, so we could apply to all, or try to appeal to all boaters and all boat types, but then may become watered down, because a sailor doesn't have the same needs or pain points as a motorboat owner. So you have to really pick your swim lane, pun intended, and make sure that you're using the right vernacular and talking to them in a way that resonates. Otherwise, again, you become watered down, pun intended. So again, going back to what works and what doesn't is you need to be very specific about this product or service and how it solves a problem or makes the target market's life better, and really speak their language and know the ins and outs of what they need and who they are, where they live. It has to be relevant. If it's just a generic message, it just becomes you become like white noise.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. I really think that marketing and advertising is very unique in that it relates directly to sort of dating, but there's always a sort of dance. If there's a product fit in the marketplace, people will latch onto that right away, and they'll go, cool, that's exactly what I need. That's the best product. That's the number one service. I'm going to use that. That's perfect for us. And it's very similar in the dating world, right? When you talk to someone for the first time, or you meet them in person, or you have a phone call, or you FaceTime, or you're texting, and you just click and you're in sync with that person. It's so obvious. And I think that good marketing, good advertising, and good dating habits is, you should definitely be yourself. You should always have a growth mindset. And it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard to know what you need for your business or that product or whatever you're working on. And when you meet someone, it just shouldn't be difficult, right? Would you agree from your dating experience? At least I would for me, but what do you think?
100%. And I think rejection is also part of that, right? So again, like rejection from the marketing perspective, or people are you're not going to get every pitch or that you make. You're not going to, people that you like in the dating world are not going to like you. And that's okay. You learn something along the way. They're near misses. And sometimes it'll take, 7 months before you realize you're just not meant to ride off into the sunset. But I feel like you gain something, you learn something about yourself. You take a part of a wonderful dance in this crazy world that we live in, and you connect with a human being, and there are memories and smiles and things that are brought forward that if you hadn't met that person and taken that chance, you would be missing out. So again, I think so highly of so many people I've met along the way in my online dating journey, and even if they weren't the one, I would be sad if I didn't have those memories and connections. So I'm in love with my husband. I found the right person, and I was patient and avoided some near miss or some heartbreak, and I got my heart broken in the process too. But I wouldn't trade all of the other experiences for anything. It makes me a richer, more exciting, and a lot more love in my life over the long haul.
And on that note, right, because I think we've all been through that really, really hard heartbreak. I think that is so mature for like spiritual. I think it's very necessary for spiritual growth, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. But in today's world, it's a bonus question. I think a lot of people have a hard time accepting rejection, right? I know that I've pitched a bunch of big tier 1 clients, Adidas, Nike, VH1, Jordan, Louis Vuitton, and I've lost these pitches like to my face, or they've told us like no, or we find out after and we spent months on a pitch or something. And those kinds of rejections are hard. I've been broken up with in 2 serious relationships, and those were very hard. And I think for people, if they're dating, this might be a younger generation thing too, but how is it that people can accept rejection for what it is? I think a lot of people have a lot of difficulties for that. And what would you say to people that maybe haven't been rejected or are being rejected for the first time, or just suffered a really hard rejection? What would you say to those people?
Yeah, no, I love this topic because I've done a lot of soul searching, and also reaching out to people who I trust, and I really lean into my spiritual side. So Kim, you and I haven't talked about this, but I got my yoga teacher training, and I have explored in my 30s after a couple of heartbreaks, just like really went deep inside myself, took some time off from dating to reflect and really make sure I liked myself, and I was in love with myself, not in a narcissistic way, but that like
Right.
I want to be what I want to attract, right? And so if I don't love myself, how could I possibly give it out or expect other people to meet me where I was? So I've done some hard work, and I really feel like that rejection is just something. It's a human experience. No one on this planet avoids rejection. It's just a hard fact. We have suffering. We have a lot of joy in our life. It's just the human experience. I firmly believe that redirection is protection and redirection, right? So it prevents you from going down and spending too much time on a path that's not meant for you. Now, you can, if you believe in God, and I personally do, a higher source, what have you, you can look at it from that way. But it's just, I do believe that there's some kind of divine or spiritual journey that you're meant to have. And this thing that you might want so bad is actually protecting you, because there's something else out there that you are meant to experience, or someone else you're supposed to meet, something you're supposed to do. And so if you put that lens on, it takes away the sting so much better. I'm not saying it's not hard and heartbreaking, but like it takes away a sting. That just have faith. You can't see around the corner. We don't have a crystal ball, but there's other things awaiting you that are bigger, better, and more profound.
That's all people need to know. And I think it takes you going through that to be really be able to embrace that and live that and share that message with others. So I can tell you've put the work in, and I commend you for that. Other than that, that's all I have for 3 questions. I just want to say thank you for coming on. We should definitely do this again. I know you have a lot going on, but would you like to let people know how to reach you or get in touch with you, or ways to keep following you?
Yeah. So now that everyone's heard my 3 questions, or I guess I got a bonus 4th, I do secretly or have had this secret wish of being an online dating coach. So I don't know if anybody felt like this was kind of resonating, maybe hit me up or hit Cam up and let me know. Maybe I'll start to explore that. But that's just my secret dream job. But in my real life, again, I am a marketing professional, and you can reach me at katemckay14@gmail.com. I also, being left-brained and right-brained, I have an Etsy shop with some colorful seashells and photographs, and also have a website for fine art photography in Newport. So if you like sunsets, Newport, anything colorful in around the water, and you want to have something pretty in your foyer, your office, what have you, just take a look at Kate McKay Photos at katemckayphotos.com, and that's MacKay.
Awesome. And send that to me in an email. I'll include that. It should be in the description in the box if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts. And then this will also go on YouTube. I tend to post them like a couple weeks later on YouTube. So find it out there. This is all I have for episode 34. I want to give Howie from Apponite and Ad Sciences another shout out. That'll also be in the description box. And if you have questions about that, you can reach out. Other than that, Kate, great to have you. Thank you for coming on, and we'll get you on in another future podcast. All right.
Thank you so much. A lot of gratitude, and namaste.
Namaste. See you later.